A small special town called Saint Laurent was where our founder, Saint Louis de Montfort, started his journey. Born the eldest in the family, Saint Louis was the most diligent. He entered Rennes College when he was 12 years old, and there was when his dedication and chivalry to the religion started. At his confirmation, he added the name Mary in his name to become Saint Louis Mary de Montfort. He joined small groups of students under a priest and would always stop to pray to our Lord and to Our Lady of Miracles on his way to school from home. At 20, Saint Louis left his home for Paris in promise of a scholarship at Saint Sulpice Seminary. He faced a lot of miracles along the way and braved many bad and stormy weathers. When Saint Louis was in Paris, he was brought to the seminary for poor clerics instead. His superior realized that he was a saint and saw potential. Saint Louis progressed and became the cleverest student in the seminary. As starvation increased, he needed money to pay his school fees, so he took up a job of watching corpses for 3 to 4 nights a week. At the same time, he read and studied even more to be more knowledgeable. He prepared for priesthood and was ordained a priest on 5th June 1700. He was only 27 years of age. Saint Louis then went to serve the poor in the hospital, helping and caring for the sick and poor. He also started a society of pious women in order to oppose the havoc caused by selfishness and disorder within the hospital itself. The first association was introduced, Association of Wisdom. However, people ridiculed him for it. Saint Louis then elected Mary Loisy to be the founder of the Daughters of Wisdom. He then left Poitiers Hospital and made his way to Saint Sulpice, Paris. Driven away by people who should have advised and helped him, Saint Louis turned to God entirely. He took refuge under a staircase in Porte de Fer in Paris, where he multiplied his prayers and penances. He began writing. It was his first book, The Love of Eternal Wisdom. He then went back to Poitiers and helped to care for the sick. Villagers began to accept him slowly. The poor people helped Saint Louis to turn a barn into a chapel where many sermons were then held. After managing Montagnac, Saint Louis promised the bishop to repair the shrine on the bridge and also the Saint John Temple. People accused Saint Louis of evil deeds. Unaware of the situation, he was ambushed by the Vicar General during his sermons. The place where Saint Louis prayed became a hospital for incurable patients entrusted to the Daughters of Wisdom. He had the gift of performing miracles, where once he told the dying lady she will recover from an illness. She went on to live another 12 years. Later on, Saint Louis went to Rome to seek the Pope's advice. After seeking the Pope's advice, he was given the title of Apostle Missionary and went on to preach in France. 2 months after he left Rome, he finally arrives at the abbey. Unfortunately, his enemies were watching and the bishop told him to leave at once. Driven away, Saint Louis set out for Brittany. Unfortunately, he was turned away by Mother Abbess too. Soon, he arrived back home at Rennes. He did not lodge up with his parents as he did not want to be in the way of his family. However, Saint Louis agreed to have a real meal with them. Saint Louis was called to preach in the church once. Instead of preaching, he knelt down, started to pray aloud, moving the whole audience to tears. Saint Louis then proceeds on to Dinan. During the mission of Dinan, Montfort preached, taught catechism to children and to adults, and fed the poor. St. Louis started bonfires to show gratitude to God. Hymns are being sung. Difficulties soon arose about him within the missionary team. They were jealous of St. Louis' success. Louis brought a few poor people to eat at his house with his parents when they came back to Montfort. St. Louis was forced to leave his hermitage. He left for Nantes. Brother Peter fell grievously ill during the mission of Vertao. St. Louis went to see him on the sick bed, ordered him to get up, and amazingly, by noon, Peter was perfectly cured. St. Louis' fame grew. Some loved him and some criticized. A charitable lady gave him a house, which he named Providence. It was used to shelter some incurable paupers. At the Point Chitao, he decided to build a large Calvary. It took him about 15 months with the help of people all over. Unfortunately, the bishop forbade the blessings of the Calvary. St. Louis crossed villages after villages for his preachers with Brother Mathurin and reached La Rochelle. Some miscreants, furious about the conversion multiplying at La Rochelle, decided to suppress the holy preacher. They poured poison into his broth. His health was altered from then onwards. He was asked to go and Avalanche U Island. He traveled alone, going through a lot of tribulations along the way. The mission was, however, a success. There were many conversions. At La Rochelle, he was given a small house which he named St. Eloi Hermitage. He then went on to open up a few other schools whenever he could educate the children. By then, his health deteriorates. He still managed to preach his last few missions before succumbing to bed. After his death on 28 April 1716, fathers, brothers, and sisters expanded and took care of the institutions. He was only 43 when he died. Only on 20th July 1947 was he then declared a saint by Pope Pius XII. After St. Louis, Mary de Montfort passed on, a group of followers, Father Gabriel Deschiers, who was his successor, found the Brothers of St. Gabriel. He was invited by the Bishop of Malacca to open up a school in Singapore, which was back then Holy Innocents English School. It was after which renamed Montfort Junior and Secondary Schools respectively.